Taking a step back into the universal century after a short stint in the cosmic era, we have received not one, but two high grades from this Gundam timeline. Today we're going to be taking a look at high grade 254, the Zaku II F-type Solari from the new Netflix series Requiem for Vengeance. The original Zaku II was already a pretty blocky design, but this redesign of a beloved classic takes that bulky look and runs with it even further. Along with the bulk, this new look of the Zaku also adds a ton of surface detail. This has even more surface detailing than the original real grade Zaku II. Taking one look at this design, you can tell it was clearly inspired by older World War II types of tanks, and that has translated well into this model kit form. This Zaku has small rivets, hatches, and greebling throughout the entire kit. The folly to any Federation Gundam is the venerable Zaku II. Starting this review with the runners, we have 7 here in total. These are molded in 4 different colors with 139 parts total. This will generally be a quicker build than the Gundam, not only because the piece count is less, but also because a lot of the parts here are rather large. This build was rather quick, taking me from panel lining to snapped and built around 4 hours. There are a handful of small parts, most notably the snout on the Zaku mouth area, as well as the small block of greebling for the head. The plastic for this kit feels sturdy and has the same quality we would expect from Bandai kits. These smaller pieces went together fine and are solid. I don't have any fears that this Zaku might randomly lose its snout. What was a little perplexing for me on this build was some of the tolerances were extremely tight. I had to press down quite hard to get the lower leg armor to come together. The peg that goes into the thigh was also extremely tight and had to be installed at the specific right angle to seat into the leg properly. Just be mindful of those areas on your kit. You don't want to press too hard and snap a peg or add stress marks to the leg. Because of this tightness, the joints on this kit are also really stiff. This is good for holding poses and longevity of the kit, so it's not really a complaint. You just may have to be a little mindful while putting this guy into some cool poses. We saw with the Gundam EX that the realistic redesign had some effect on the articulation of the kit, so let's see if that trend continues with this Zaku II. Starting off with the head, we have a swivel joint in the torso and a ball joint for the head. The neck can tilt forward and the head down just a bit, giving us a fair downward angle. The neck can move backwards and the head can tilt upwards to give us about a 10-degree angle looking upwards. The head does have a side-to-side tilt, giving us 15 degrees in either direction. Finally, the head can rotate 360 degrees, giving us a full rotation. All around not bad for a Zaku. It does have the snout and power hose to contend with, and it does a fine job articulating with the head. The torso section usually leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to Zakus. There's only so much you can do with the design, which is now going to be even more difficult given the extra bulk here. There's a ball joint connection on the waist, as well as a ball joint connection in the abdomen. The torso has almost no rotation on the waist, giving us around 5 degrees of rotation, which is quite poor. This is on par with the Gundam EX. The skirt armor and lower torso prevents any movement here. You can, however, cheat this and pull the torso up a little bit, but it gives the mobile suit a funky look. However, it will net you a 35-degree torso rotation on the waist. The abdomen does have a decent crunch, allowing the Zaku to look downwards at a 35-degree angle. There is no side-to-side lean here on the Zaku, unless again you cheat it by pulling the Zaku slightly apart to give you some lean, but this nets you a pretty goofy gap in the center. The front waist armor can swing forward a little bit around a 25-degree angle, and the side skirts can swing out about 35 degrees. The front skirt is connected together, so articulating one leg forward will mean that both skirts are open, which is a little bit of a shame. The front skirt can also detach, if you will, from the waist and allow more leg articulation. This allows the front skirt to swing out a full 90 degrees flat. The rear skirt has no articulation whatsoever. Again, like the Gundam EX and a lot of the Seed Freedom kits we've gotten this year, the leg connection at the waist can drop down. This allows us a lot more articulation and lets us work around this longer skirt that the Zaku has. The legs can kick out about 130 degrees forward and upwards, with the leg connection dropped. Without the leg connection dropped and the skirt back in place, you can really only net about a 90-degree angle kicking forward. When it comes to kicking backwards, you get basically nothing. Even dropping the leg all the way will only get you around 15 degrees backwards. Did I mention that this also looks goofy? The thigh connector, while a little difficult to install, does allow you to rotate the leg a full 360 degrees all the way around. The knee is double jointed, giving you a fairly decent leg curl. This works great for kneeling poses, and the Zaku does a pretty nice job with it despite its extra bulky design. The power cables on the leg really don't get in the way of anything at all, which is a miracle as they are solid plastic. They pulled this off for this kit really well. The foot is on a swivel joint at the shin and a ball joint on the foot itself. The top of the foot is on a swivel and is part of the leg rather than the foot. It is possible to move the foot downward enough to see a gap. There is not much articulation here for the foot, just downward articulation, which is fair, and upward articulation, which is not very good. There's really no articulation there at all. There is left to right tilting articulation, which will net you 15 degrees in either direction. Moving up to the arms, they are on a swivel joint in the torso, a ball joint on the shoulder armor, and a swivel within the shoulder armor itself. These all work well together and give the Zaku a nice reach across of its body. There is a swivel in the shoulder joint, and using the ball joint at the connection will also give us some more spread, allowing the Zaku to reach upwards to about a 70-degree angle. There is no T-pose on this guy, but the angle is better here than it is on the Gundam EX counterpart. The spiked pauldron is on an up and down swivel, and the shield is also on an up and down swivel, as well as a full 360-degree rotation joint on the shoulder. The shield also has a handle that the Zaku can hold. The bicep is on a swivel joint, giving us full 360-degree rotation. The elbow is on a double joint, giving us a full bicep curl for this Zaku, which is relatively impressive. The hand is on a ball joint so it can swivel a little bit and go full 360 degrees all the way around. The backpack has nothing. No movement in the verniers, it's completely static, so a whole segment of articulation we can just pass over. The kit comes with the bread and butter of Zaku accessories, the Heat Hawk and the Zaku machine gun. Both can be stowed with this handy weapon rack that sits on the rear skirt. Sadly, both cannot be stowed at the same time, but I did find that the Heat Hawk fits nicely on the ridges of the Zaku shield, so you can stow this there if you really wanted to. The kit comes with an action-based connector, one right shooting hand, one left open hand, and two closed fist-type hands. Thankfully, we have another minimal kit here that doesn't have a hard time standing at all. This is refreshing given that a lot of high grades earlier this year would have really benefited from a stand in some way. I didn't have any problem pulling off fun poses for the Zaku. It is a little awkward to get the Zaku to hold the machine gun with both hands. I felt that the kit was so stiff with the open hand that the manual recommends for holding the weapon handle, and it didn't like staying in place because of the stiffness. Anytime I would move the hand onto the handle, it would kind of bounce back just because the joint was so stiff. Luckily, the closed hand does a good job of holding the handle, and the handle can swivel, which is nice. I was able to pull off some cool crouching and shooting poses, as well as readying for battle. This kit would be perfect in a ruined street type of diorama. This kit has a great feel and vibe to it, and I generally had a lot more fun posing the Zaku II F type Solari over the Gundam EX. When it comes to color correction, the kit is mostly color accurate out of the box. There is one instance of a color correcting sticker that I didn't use. There's a yellow stripe that belongs on one of the spikes of the pauldrons. I'll be painting this after the review, but I never like using these bigger stickers to go around a large textured part of the piece. I did also use the eye sensor sticker, but this could easily be painted with some patience and a really precise brush. One thing to note is there is no color part for the Heat Hawk. The manual shows this as an orangey yellow, but we do not have a piece or a sticker for that, so you'll have to deal with the Heat Hawk being deactivated, or learn how to paint this type of effect on the Heat Hawk itself. The Heat Hawk is molded in one entire section, so it's not as simple as just removing the blade and spraying that, unfortunately. In conjunction with the color correcting stickers, we also have a bunch of real grade type stickers to go along with this kit. But once again, I didn't use these stickers. These stickers have weathering directly printed into them. If I were to place these on the kit, it would seem weathered in some places and in others, no weathering at all. I don't personally like this, as I think thematically it wouldn't make sense to have just the center portion of the chest weathered with the rest of the kit looking clean. I wish these stickers were just the details and the manual encouraged you to weather the kit yourself. These stickers are a big miss for me, and I'll be waiting for some variation of water slides to release before fully finishing this kit to my standards. This kit is overflowing with detail greebling and panel lines. On this kit I used Tamiya accent color black, and it works really well on the more charcoal gray that we see with the power tubes, armor, and interior type framing. It's subtle and adds that extra oomph those pieces need to really stick out. The cleanup was quick and painless. All the panel lines here are recessed a good amount, so I didn't have to worry about erasing any of my panel lines while cleaning up the parts. I panel lined this on the runners and had a fun time doing so. It didn't take me very long either. In the past I had panel lined almost exclusively with a pen, so this would have taken me a big chunk of time if that was still my primary method for panel lining. There is a lot of panels to cover here. Nub marks and seam lines, the two biggest hurdles builders have to contend with, are sadly pretty easy to see on this kit. You'll absolutely want to sand your parts on some of the darker colors. The two-cut method is not good enough to hide these nub marks, so you'll absolutely want to get your sanders or gun primer razors and balancers out to deal with them. Even on the red parts, there's some noticeable nubs, which comes from some pretty thick gates that are on the runners. The seam lines are disappointing in a few areas, primarily on the top of the shield, the top of the forearm, the sides of the torso, as well as the red pauldron. While not a seam line or a nub mark, the one thing to note is also the hollow foot. It looks extremely funky and there's some detail in the hollow area, so I'm not sure if this is by design or what, but it straight up doesn't look right on the bottom of the foot. This kit comes to us for about $22 United States retail, and I picked this up from Target. I spent more time on this build than I did with the Dual Blitz Gundam, and that kit costs around $30 US. I know the pricing of these kits is based on material used to create them, but I feel I got better bang for my buck from this kit. It took me a little longer to panel line and build the Zaku over some others that have released this year for a higher price point but in the same grade, and I had a ton of fun building this. I had a blast posing this kit for the review and was impressed with the articulation of this kit, even more so over the Gundam EX. Now to get some of these poses, it does include having the skirt fully open and some weird torso maneuvers, which looks a little off, but it still poses better than many other Zakus of the same grade. My only gripes with this kit would be the ugly nub marks, which will add to your build time, and some of the seam lines, which are really quite bad. The forearm specifically sticks out as a sore thumb. This kit really nails the more realistic Zaku design and was a pleasure to panel line and build. This kit looks great out of the box and would be a fine addition to your Xeon shelf. Like the Gundam EX, the aesthetics here are subjective, but I would recommend building at least one of these Requiem for Vengeance kits. It's got a different feel and vibe to it over what we typically expect from a Bandai high grade. I enjoyed my time building this Zaku, even liking the build a little more over the Gundam EX. Based off looks alone, it's a little closer to the typical Zaku, so I feel this kit will be less polarizing than the design of the Gundam EX. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video as well as watching the Gundam EX review. This channel has popped off like crazy, and I can't thank you all enough for 1,000+ subscribers now. It's still going up as I'm recording this voiceover, which it just blows me away. Your likes, your comments, and subscriptions definitely do not go unnoticed, and I promise to keep bringing you guys high quality Gundam and Gunpla content similar to this review, as well as the Gundam EX review. Seeing as I'm a builder from the United States, I typically don't get kits this early, but I'll have reviews up on new releases as early as I can get my hands on them and build them. Again, thank you all so much for the support, and thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next review, and until then, stay safe, have fun, and happy building.